Okay, today we're going to be carving a fox. This is a 1x1x4 piece of basswood, and we're only going to use about half of it, just the top half, and it could be sitting on something like a log or a stone or something, but let's just get right into it. So somewhere about halfway, we're going to make a little V cut here, and that will sort of show where the bottom of this fox is going to be and where the stump or the stone, whatever he's sitting on, will be. Make these little V cuts here. Okay, and then this one here. And that'll give us kind of a reference. And then we can kind of cut this out. And that'll show where the bottom of the stone is. I mean the fox and the top of the stone and or stump is. All right. Okay. Something like that. So now the main thing that we have to do is we have to define the head and the the torso and everything. So first of all, let's do this part right here. The fox is going to have tall ears, and these ears are going to kind of stick out at an angle. So let's make a V cut here, and we can sort of eliminate this like this, and then clean that up. And we have sort of the back of the head here. Hopefully you can see that. And then we'll make a cut in right here, and we'll cut that out, and that'll sort of define the back of the head / the ears of this fox. And then a fox's face always comes to a point, so let's just cut away the front here so that we can make that point come out. And we'll just sort of slope away and get its face kind of carved out there. Something like, well, hold on. It needs a long snout, so we got to take a lot of this stuff away here. I'm almost there. Okay, we'll see if that'll work. And then let's make a V cut here, or somewhere around here. And this will be sort of the head. This will define where the head is. Okay. Then we'll make a V cut here. We'll cut that away. And then we can kind of perfect it as we go. Get rid of some of these areas on the sides. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to eliminate this area and try to make this thing come to a point. So we start cutting away. So that's that. Let's just keep narrowing it down and sort of sloping it until we have a nice narrow snout. And let's pull this back a little bit. We can see it's not quite long enough for the snout of a fox. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, let's narrow it up a little bit more. And then let's get this thing to come back a little bit. And something like that. Okay, now we need to cut away the bottom into kind of a point as well. So let's remove this area. Okay. All right, something like this. You can see how it's kind of pointed right here. You can kind of shine this up a little bit. Make it so that it has that sort of like fox snout look. All right. And then what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to actually cut in the sides of the face a little bit. And that will define the narrowness of that face. Okay. So that's the head there is getting pretty close. But the only thing we need to do is we need to make a little V cut here. You don't have to, but whoops. Don't want to cut too much of that off. That'll define the ears from the rest of the head. All right. Okay. Now, let's cut this back a ways. And let's start working on the body. Okay. Actually, before we get too far, let's cut back a little bit here and define the back. Oops, just bumped the camera. The ears a little bit more. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the head. Sorry, I think I keep going out of focus. So a fox has a huge fat tail. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to define this big tail. And the tail is going to come from back here, okay? And it's going to swoop around, and it's going to come through here, and it's going to sort of meet its end right here, okay? So that's kind of the idea. So let's make that happen, okay? So let's make a cut here, something like this, and another cut here, okay? Well, let's just V-cut these out, okay? And that'll define where the fox's tail separates from his body. And then we can sort of shape that a little bit more later. But for now, let's just get the idea across. This is a simple carving. You can go a little bit further if you want to, or whatever. Okay. And then it's going to come across here all the way to the front. Okay. All right, something like this. We can cut away a bunch of that. Now we will have to make it a little more rounded, just so we can define that it is in fact a tail. But for now, let's just roll with it. And then like that. Okay. And then like this. And let's V-cut that away as well. Okay. Something like this. All right. Let's remove some of this. And start shaping this tail. Whoops, I bumped the camera again. I'm sorry. I keep doing that. Let's round everything off a bit. He's kind of tucked here in his tail, you know, and sitting there with it wrapped around him. And it is a big fat tail, but we want to kind of show that it's a round tail as well. So let's make that a reality here. And it doesn't go all the way around his body, it just goes around to the front. But we'll make that obvious just by shaping the tail, kind of like I'm doing here. Okay. Almost there. I just got to give it a bunch of little cuts to make it sort of rounded. You can cut this out. This way you'll have a little bit bigger of a head. Okay. And round this out a little bit with a few cuts. See where we're at now. You can see his tail. Remember, the tail comes to a point. That's always how it is for foxes. I have some foxes that live near my house, and I love whenever I see them. There's a couple of pups, and I'm assuming a male and a female. Although I've only seen, I don't even know if I've seen the male and the female. I've only seen the pups, just tiny little, cute little foxes. Yeah, let's cut this thing back here, sort of define. Actually, let's make a cut here to give more of that sort of angular face that foxes always have. Okay, that looks a little bit more fox-like. Don't want to cut away too much of the neck, but a little bit of it. Let's clean this up a little bit here. Okay, it's a little fox. Okay, and then the back, let's define this a little bit more. As it is the tail area. Here, let's dig that out a little bit more. And then let's get rid of these corners here. Don't really need those. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to make the rear leg, because the fox is sitting here and it has that leg that sort of comes out like this and like that. And that will sort of define that area. Let's get rid of some more of this. Oh, come on. Got to kind of dig it out because they always have skinny upper bodies. And then the big tail, you know. Foxes are really small animals. Oh, come on. It's getting there. We'll just slowly work it until we get to the point where we like it. And we're getting close now. So anyway, okay. So when you paint it, you'll leave the tail will be, I believe, white, the end of the tail, somewhere around right here. The rest of it will be orange. And then there will be black tips on the ears, and like the whole body will be orange or red or gray. It kind of doesn't matter. You can paint it whatever you want. You can paint it purple if you want. But it is important that you get the tip of the tail different. Okay, that's starting to look like a fox. Look at that. I love carving. It's so fun. We could dig out some of that right there, but first let's just do the rear leg. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to carve this part out and make a little foot here. And this will define that rear leg. Oh, a cute little fox here in a second. Okay. That could probably be cleaned up a bit. You could define it a little bit more. Again, the paint will really sort of solidify what this thing is. But as you can see, it is a fox. And like I said, from here, you want to paint it so that you get the tips of the ears different, and then everything else would be orange or gray or whatever. And then black, I think black or white on the tip of the tail. I have to recheck. I don't have my other fox with me. But, yeah, just paint it however you want. This is all about just having fun, right? And making something cool, something that you can put on the shelf and have a good time with, just looking at anyway. This actually could be cut back a bit. Might have done a little bit too much on the tail going up. You don't have to do that much. It could be a lot smaller than that, but that's all right. Anyway, so here is a fox, and yeah, made out of basswood. Thanks for watching.